Our selection will be Motherless Child. I'm like a motherless child in a peculiar tumult, rejected by close relatives who say I'm in the cult, cause I say Yahshua's my savior and Yahweh's the creator. They notice my mistakes, forsaking the change in my behavior. Another day in the life of a slave, yet being led by the Spirit shall keep us guided through this maze. And there we sat by the rivers of Babylon, and there we wept when we remembered our home and those that carried us away. Of some nerve required of us a song. How shall we sing Yahweh's song in a land not our own? It makes me wanna holler the way they do my life. I roar like a lion, but still feel like a motherless child, a long way from Zion. Oh, sometimes I feel like a motherless child. You know, sometimes I feel like a motherless child. You know, sometimes I feel like a motherless child. It's a long way from home. A long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. It's a long way from home. A long way from home. Sometimes I feel like getting down on my knees to pray. You You know, sometimes I get down on my knees and pray. You know, sometimes I get down on my knees and pray. It's a long way from home. A long way from home. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. You know, sometimes I feel like a motherless child. You know, sometimes I feel like a motherless child. It's a long way from home. A long way from home.
The Oracles of the UCI. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him, and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right. Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. If you guys have not seen, there's several videos going out about Ghana welcoming the so-called African American back to Ghana for their they called 2019 the year of return. There are several things that are kind of going about, and there are some interesting documentation that's given on it, but I feel like there's parts of where we start dealing with the covenants of Yahweh, that those things are not taken into consideration in dealing with that. We're going to run down a few things. Ghana is said to be celebrating their Golden Jubilee. In connection with their Golden Jubilee, they have initiated the Joseph Project. The Joseph Project has been created to mark the path for the return of the prodigal son, as they call it, making way for the so-called African American to return to Africa. Ghana claims to offer easy visas and a right of abode to returning African Americans, says President Akufo-Addo. What we have to try to figure out is, what does this mean exactly? In regular terms, you're given the right to work and live, but we have that already where we are. We also have to take into consideration that America is opening its first military base in Ghana, which happens to be the same place that has openly, or the first place that has openly welcomed so-called African Americans back to their land. It is reported that America engages in 10 military operations per day on average on the African continent. We also have to take into consideration that China and America operate military installations in Africa to protect their assets. China is said to own so much in Zambia that it is about to take Zambia as its colony. The evidence of that is said to be that the Chinese now operate the government-run Zambian television station. Also, Sierra Leone, which is located next to Liberia and is separated from Ghana by the Ivory Coast, has recently canceled a $318 million loan for an airport. The situation in Sierra Leone is dire, and the airport is said to be unnecessary. It is reported that China operates in predatory lending by giving countries loans that they can't possibly pay back. When the loan is defaulted upon, China then seizes the resources of that country, which is the exact same strategy used by Western countries going through the IMF, or International Monetary Fund. There's an article right here that I'm going to get Brother Kish to read a few things from, and it is called The Fall and Rise of Ghana's Debt. See, it's something that we have to consider when there are several things, because I watched the president's address on welcoming African Americans back, and there's certain things, if you don't listen, there's certain things that you're not really going to pay attention to, and we have to consider the state of where it is you are being invited back to, and try to figure out, okay, what would be the gain for that particular country for us to go to this place. And if you don't think a debt situation is real, a lot of us, especially my age, we grew up on New Edition, right? Y'all back up to the New Edition story. Remember when Johnny Gill joined the group? All right. Then all of a sudden, Johnny Gill started having money problems. If you remember the whole New Edition movie, and they had to explain to Johnny Gill, well, they had money problems when you joined the group. So when you join the group, you inherited their money problems. So now Johnny Gill, who didn't have money problem, joined a group that he thought he was gonna make more money, but he ended up signing on to the money problems that were already there when he got there. So pay attention to the things that we are about to read and consider where you're being invited to go to. This is called The Fall and Rise of Ghana's Debt, and we're just going to read. I'll tell you when to stop.
Okay. Ghana is in a debt crisis. Despite having significant amounts of debt canceled a decade ago, the country is losing around 30% of government revenue in external debt payments each year. Such huge payments are only possible because Ghana has been able to take on more loans from institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, which are used to pay the interest on debts to previous lenders, whilst the overall size of the debt increases.
Okay, yeah, I remember back in the days you used to be able to, and they found out what people were doing, so they stopped a lot of that. How folks was using credit cards to pay credit cards, and they end up stopping that because they realized, you know, hey man, they hustling. Well, they getting a loan to pay a loan. This is places that you know, people say, oh, it's good. They're inviting us to go back. We want to be accepted so bad that we'll accept anybody's invitation. And they're getting loans to pay off loans. Go ahead.
Ghana's crisis is the result of a gradual increase in lending and borrowing off the back of the discovery of oil and high commodity prices.
So understand what's happening. It is not just America and Europe, but China is in this game. They are completely robbing Africa of its resources. Their first thing was to go and get labor from Africa. That has already been done. They've gotten all the slaves that they need. Now, Africa possesses all of these resources in its own soil, from every cell phone to every tablet to everything that you can think of that is being made. Those resources to make those things come from Africa. So they devised their little schemes to rob this continent, not country, continent, because they're in multiple countries stealing the resources out of its ground. Now understand, you just, the part where it says recent discovery of oil. How can you have oil and still be broke? That means somebody's playing games with your money. You don't have all, come on, I'm sorry, I got to back up. Beverly Hillbillies. Okay. Jed, move away from there. They said California is the place you ought to be. What? He discovered oil. He was shooting at some coon. Discovered oil. Whole life change. How you have oil in your land and you still broke? Now, if Jed Clampett can get rich by shooting at a coon and finding oil, how a whole country poor? So when you are invited to deal with something, you have to look at it in more than just somebody invited you. You have to then look at all of the other things that are connected with that, because that money is coming away from those people. And then if you get there and there's already a strain on those people, you have to ask, what is their attitude going to be toward you when you show up? You know, it's one thing if we ain't got but one biscuit and it's two of us. But if we got the same one biscuit and there's 10 of us, hey, I'm telling you now, it's going to be, hey, things about to get interesting about this one biscuit. Go ahead, bro.
More money was then borrowed following the fall in the price of oil and other commodities since 2013.
And we know that they play with the prices of oil as they want to. Okay? I remember the gas pump didn't have but two numbers on it because it didn't go higher than 99 cents. It was 79, 89, 99. 99 was the best oil. That was that premium, Jack. That high octane. I haven't gotten high octane in years. Go ahead.
To try to deal with the impact of the commodity price crash, whilst the relative size of the debt also grew because of the fall in the value of the Ghanaian currency, the cedi, against the dollar.
Right. So another point that you have to understand, whenever you are paying back a loan and the basis for your loan is somebody else's currency, you have an issue. Go ahead.
The underlying causes of the return to a debt crisis are therefore the continued dependency on commodity exports, as well as borrowing and lending not being responsible enough, meaning that new debts do not generate sufficient revenue to enable them to be repaid. At the moment, all the costs of the crisis are being borne by the people of Ghana.
Stop. Read that again.
At the moment, all the costs of the crisis are being borne by the people of Ghana.
So they're having to pay for all of the bad loans, the people. Now, how do you make that better? We need to get more people. Right. Go ahead.
And none by the lenders.
Right. So they don't have to incur any of the problems of any of these bad situations, but the people do. And understand the power of that. We are born here. Every time there's a birth, they get a birth certificate. It is basically a bond, which has a red number on the back, just like any other bonds that are sold and traded on the stock market. You are worth money. Every person born is worth money. Why? Because you can borrow money on the future productivity of the citizens of your country. All right, now I need y'all to be thinking right now. Okay, so if you borrow, remember we've talked about this before. They used to say each person is worth $1 million. You're going to make $1 million in your lifetime. Now you ain't going to see that $1 million. You're going to make it all throughout your whole life. Well, consider something. If that amount of money is attributed to just your being, imagine if you get 20, 30 million people from somewhere else and you get to constantly now borrow more money based on the amount of citizens, because this is the way the American system is set up. We don't know that, most of us, but that is the way that system is set up. They borrow money. You have to look at how do we continually have a deficit, but America is continually borrowing money because there's more people. Every time there's more people, they have the ability to borrow more money. I mean, you consider it. Once you get to a certain point and you keep trying to borrow money, they're going to tell you, no, you can't borrow no more money. Even if you've made all your payments on every loan that you've ever made, they said, no, you have hit your debt ceiling. You cannot borrow any more money. How does a country continue to do it? People. So understand what the need for additional people can be. Go ahead.
This is unfair. Lenders should carry their share of the cost of any irresponsible lending and of the change in circumstance caused by the fall in commodity prices. Additional action is also needed in order to prevent a repeat of Ghana's crisis, including changes on the part of the government and lenders to ensure that the loans are well used and that more of the revenue generated by the economy is turned into government revenue by taxation.
All right. So this was published in October 2016. Okay. So this was 2 years ago. This was, several years ago, this was already there in effect. So now we have this situation where African Americans, so-called, are being offered the ability to come to Ghana and remember certain things. They say that you can get easy visas and right of abode. But before we get to that, I need you to pay attention. See, I watched I watched several things, but I watched the president's address, and they mentioned two things. One was called the Joseph Project, and then after that, if you, of course, understand the whole story of Joseph, his brothers took him and sold him into slavery. First problem with that, they're not our brothers. Okay? Then the next thing, what was said directly after that was the situation of the prodigal son. Now, we need to read something so that you'll understand. Let's go to Luke chapter 15. We're going to begin in Luke chapter 15, and we're going to read verses 11 through 32. Luke chapter 15, and we're going to read verses 11 through 32.
Verse 11. And he said, a certain man had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me. And he divided unto them his living. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living.
Okay, stop. Do you know what prodigal means? That's the wasteful. It is the return of the wasteful son. The prodigal son is the one who got his inheritance and then wasted on riotous living. How the hell does that apply to us? See, some things sound cute, but you got to learn to stop and back up. He said, oh, this is the Joseph project. It is time for the return of the prodigal son. Who the hell is prodigal? When y'all gave us some money and we wasted it. When we get the money? I don't remember seeing no money. See, there's certain words that sound cute, but that don't fit us. First of all, we ain't your brothers, and we ain't had no money. We didn't get no inheritance and then wasted it. That is the story of the prodigal son. So you have to, sometimes when you listen to stuff, you got to get past that romantic wee of what it sounds like. It's, wait a minute, what is being said right here? In one of the videos, it was real hard to watch because the so-called African-American sister, as the guy is talking about it, the sister bows down and gets on her knees in front of the Africans. I was ready to walk away from my computer. We so happy that somebody inviting us somewhere. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 14. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land, and he began to be in want.
Right. No, we was not in want because we wasted our money. We was in want because y'all sold us. Let's go ahead and get that part clear. Go ahead.
And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into the fields to feed swine. And he would fain have filled his belly with the husk that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him. And when he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no more worthy to be called your son. Make me as one of your hired servants.
Mm-hmm.
And he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and am no more worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet.
Now, even in the story of the prodigal son, there's certain things that I need to point out. First of all, he asked for his inheritance early. He wasted his money, and now as he is returning, the father has then attired him with the best robe and what did they say, put a ring on his finger?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what they offer us is a visa and a right to stay. You got that already. When somebody offers you a job and you already have a job, don't they have to offer you more than the job that you have?
Mm-hmm.
So, man, I'm gonna let you work here. Somebody already let me work where I'm at. What else you got? I'm going to pay you $12 an hour. I'm making 14 now. That ain't going to work. That the best you got? So I'm supposed to take this trip for nothing? What you offering other than what I already have? Go ahead.
And bring hither the fatted calf, and kill it, and let us eat, and be merry. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found. And they began to be merry. Now his eldest son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said unto him, Your brother is come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has received him safe and sound. And he was angry, and would not go in.
Okay. What did I say in the beginning? What happened when all these so-called African Americans show up to a place, and if you start to either receive favor or whatever, what does that cause the attitude to be toward you from the people who were already there? So now you have in the very story that the concept that was mentioned, this prodigal son, the son that's already there is pissed when the other one shows up. Now, it's one thing to have one person ticked off at you, but to have like 10 million, that's something altogether different. Go ahead.
You know, an interesting thing is that there was a situation like that in Jamaica. They had an area that they called the free zone, where the Jamaicans would go and they were making all these t-shirts for all these companies and all the clothing and stuff. And at some point, they decided to bring Chinese immigrants in to do the work. And that's the same thing. The Jamaican people are like, well, what's going on here? But they was housing these people and all these other things, where these people had to find their own transportation to get to work, have their own lunch and all this. But you housing these people, and now they're taking our jobs. It wasn't a good situation. They had to shut it down.
Right. But what was that other thing you was telling me about before, that they have a Beijing highway somewhere?
Oh, yeah, in Jamaica.
Right.
Yeah.
So as they come in and they start taking on, and these are the things that we're not considering, that other people have come and taken control of these things, and then we're thinking that, yeah, they're inviting you, but they have already lost a whole lot of control of that land that they're inviting you to. Outside interests own and control it. There are places in Africa that the Chinese have built, like resorts, hotels, that they have actually said that Africans can't come in. They're building Chinese things for Chinese people, and only they can go in. What? Right. And they're inviting you to come there. Now, we done went through bus boycotts and going through all that. So you got to offer more than a visa and a right to stay. But we're going to get to that. Go ahead.
Another thing is that, as Yahweh has told us, that we can't deal with our oppressors when when we become in charge, as they dealt with us. Because if you watch all of Bruce Lee's movies, you see about the Japanese, how they oppress the Chinese, and they called them dogs. And what are they doing? They're turning right back around now that they're in power and doing the same thing that was done to them.
Go ahead.
Verse 28. And he was angry and would not go in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him. And he answering said to his father, Lo, these many years do I serve you, neither transgressed I at any time your commandment, and yet you never gave me a kid that I might make merry with my friends.
So the jealousy has caused an issue right there. And this ain't nothing but a party. And there's an issue. Go ahead.
But as soon as this your son has come.
Now he ain't his brother, he your son. Soon as this your son done came here. Look at your son. Ain't that your brother? No, that's your son. Go ahead.
Which has devoured your living with harlots, you have killed for him the fatted calf.
All right, pause. He has devoured your living, the money that you have stored up for him, with whores. How does that relate to us? How does that at all relate to us? I don't remember them putting no money on them ships when they sent us out.
Mm-hmm.
The only money on that ship was us. Go ahead.
And he said unto him, Son, you are ever with me, and all that I have is yours.
Stop. So all the inheritance of everything that is there belongs to the other son. So the other son, the prodigal son, is invited. He get a ring and a robe, but he ain't gonna never own that. Everything I have belongs to you. So stop tripping about this little party that I'm throwing for him. I'm just happy he ain't dead. Pay attention. Go ahead.
It was meet that we should make merry and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive again, and was lost and is found.
Right. All right. Now, we have to consider, the difference between the prodigal son story and the story of Joseph. Joseph was unjustly sold into slavery. All right. He was unjustly sold by his brothers, and eventually Joseph becomes the second in line in power and ends up saving the rest of his people. There's something wrong with the combining of these two stories. They don't match at all. See, we need to pay attention between when somebody just speaks softly and when they're saying mess. See, you can watch a political debate, and if you watch enough of them, you know that they never really answer any question. What are you gonna do about hunger? Well, see, hungry people always gonna be in the world. And see, with the hunger, then we're gonna take the food and we're gonna make it real foodery. What? What does that mean? They don't answer anything. They just talk for the duration of time that they are allotted for that question. They never answer the question. So you need to pay attention when somebody's just talking and when they're actually answering a question. Let's go to Genesis chapter 15. Genesis 15, and we're going to read verses 12 through 21.
Verse 12. 24.
Okay.
And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that your seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
Mm-hmm.
And also that nation, whom they shall serve, will I judge. And afterward they shall come out with great substance.
Okay, we're looking at two things then in verse 14. The judgment of the nation wherein the children of Israel have been afflicted. And then the next part, the children of Israel coming out with great substance. Okay, a visa and a right to stay, that ain't great substance. You got to give me some. I need some gold. I need some diamonds. I need something. And I need some money that ain't in the currency of the place that's on fire behind me, okay? So don't give me no American money. You can keep that. I don't want none of that. That's the last thing we got. That's Scott paper tissue. You flush that. You don't keep that. I don't want none of that. That place going down. I don't want that. So it says we're supposed to come out with great substance. When you look at the children of Israel coming out of Egypt, what do you think they built that tabernacle with? And Yahweh told us, I need you to do some black borrowing. You know, black borrowing when you borrow and don't pay back. So he said, go over there and borrow to them Egyptians. And some of us are very skilled at black borrowing right now. You borrow, go over there and borrow all this stuff. Get all of these things. Right. And we got all of that stuff. And then later on, he says, offer up a willing offering for all of these things. Now we got all of this stuff to do what we need to do. but we got that substance. That was our pay, our payback, our reparations for the things that we have encountered. This situation does not include any reparations for us whatsoever. You want to tell me for 400 years you created a problem and your best thing is my bad. That's all you got out of 400 years? Is my bad? No. You got to be doing more than that. See, our book says restore that which you have taken away. Restore that which you have robbed. You can't just my bad after 400 years and everything that we're going to hold hands saying kumbaya. And then there's still not anything said about land. You got the right to buy your own land. I got the right to buy my own land here. And what money I'm going to use when I get there? See, they have programs even for the people that America has done wrong. This is why the Asians own nail salons on every corner and own liquor stores in every corner in our neighborhood. They pay them people for what they've gone through. The people who so-called went through certain things in Germany, they were given our land. And look how far away this land was that was given unto them. And they're in control of the things in that land. They're just offering us the ability to go and stay under some other people. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the lawlessness of the Amorites is not yet full. And it came to pass that when the sun went down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace, and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. In the same day Yahweh made a covenant with Abram, saying, Unto your seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates.
Right, so then we first have to understand that the land of Israel is bigger than the little sliver that they're sitting on right now, which means that ultimately there's going to have to be a very big shakeup in the earth. Because about 4 or 5 countries are going to have to give up a piece of the land that they are calling theirs for us to have from the river of Egypt to the river Euphrates. That encompasses about 4 or 5 countries. That is going to be something very interesting. And that is not just going to happen by way of chance and happenstance. Oh, no, it's going to be some serious bloodshed for that one. Go ahead.
The Kenites and the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites.
All right. So now let's go to Leviticus chapter 25. Because part of what this thing is, or where this whole Joseph project was initiated from, is from Ghana's Golden Jubilee. Now, we know from reading what a Jubilee is, but then we have to deal with how does their Jubilee, how do we fit into their Jubilee? Because we know what a Jubilee is. Okay, so let's show you how they're taking bits and pieces of that as well. See, everything sound good ain't good. And I don't care how sweet and soft, because this guy was talking really nice. Oh my God, you could have played a Barry White track behind it. He was talking so small.
Come on here, man. Oh yeah. Israel, come back to me.
Oh boy. Oh boy, it sounded like it was about to be some get down going on. You know what I'm talking about? Right. You could have played some soft music to it. Right. Bunch of mess in it if you know how to listen. Leviticus chapter 25, and let's start at verse 8.
And you shall number 7 Shabbats of years unto you, 7 times 7 years. And the space of 7 Shabbats of years shall be unto you 40 and 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then shall you cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. On the day of atonement shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land.
Right. Now, if you notice that everything that they deal with now, they have been Christianized. So the stuff that they're talking about includes Jesus Christ. Now, how's that going to affect you when you get ready to deal with Yahweh's word according to what this book says? Do you have the right to freely worship there, or do you have to worship as the government sees fit? See, there's a whole lot of questions that you have to ask before you go to signing your name on a contract. Go ahead.
And over there, worship practices are different because they will kill you.
See, and that's something that we're not accustomed to. But you know what? We're not accustomed to that now. But they did it here. They used to do it here. Why do you think when they put something on the news and they're talking about a Muslim people, they're speaking about them in a very derogatory manner because they're forming public opinion about them? But hey, they didn't even they bombed our churches. And we were worshiping the same as them. We think, hey, look, if we worship what y'all worship, maybe y'all leave us alone. It didn't work. Still bombed the church. And showed up with a cross on. Wait a minute. I thought we was on the same team. But you on the black team. See, it's a different. See, you with black Jesus. We burn black Jesus. What? Right. Go ahead.
Verse 10. And you shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man unto his possession, and you shall return every man unto his family.
Stop. That is what a jubilee is. A jubilee means the 50th year. This is supposed to be in commemoration of their 50th year of independence. Okay, so how does their jubilee fit his jubilee? It says, return every man unto his possession. That ain't your land. And all you get is a visa and a right to a boat. They ain't give you no land. So there's certain words that are in here. Prodigal, jubilee. Man, stop using them words. You ain't using them words right. You ain't using them words right. Go ahead.
A jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. You shall not sow, neither reap that which grows of itself in it, nor gather the grapes in it of your vine undressed. For it is the jubilee. It shall be holy unto you. You shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. In the year of this jubilee, you shall return every man unto his possession.
So see, this is the job of Yahshua. This is what, when you talk about those trumpets and vows and all of those things that the angels are going to do to bring about certain judgments upon the earth, you're talking about blowing this jubilee trumpet that then sends every man unto his possession. So we're seeing a little bit of mimicking things here. Go ahead.
And if you shall sell aught unto your neighbor, or buy aught of your neighbor's hand, you shall not oppress one another. According to the number of years after the Jubilee you shall buy of your neighbor, and according unto the number of years of the fruits he shall sell unto you. According to the multitude of years you shall increase the price thereof, and according to the fewness of years you shall diminish the price of it.
Now, are they going to deal with a Jubilee according to what's written in the book, or they're dealing with a Jubilee about their independence? Because let me tell you something. Remember how independence normally goes, okay? There's a perceived independence where you are now free of your British oppressor, but then they just oppress you again through loans and owning of your resources. Remember what happened, they told us, slavery was over. And then we ended up doing sharecropping, and lo and behold, we're right back into slavery. Wait a minute. The same thing. Ain't that mouse over there? Wait a minute. Right. End up doing the exact same thing that they said you was free from. Right. It was just a different way of slavery. let's just take the chains off, and we're going to put the chain and hook it to their pocketbook. So now when they get ready to say, I'm free, wait a minute, what is that? That's that chain hooked to your pocket. You ain't going no farther than this pocket going to let you. So the chain was just moved to a different location. So that's something that we have to pay attention to. Go ahead, bro.
For according to the number of the years of the fruits does he sell unto you. You shall not therefore oppress one another, but you shall fear your Elohim. For I am Yahweh your Elohim. Wherefore you shall do my statutes and keep my judgments and do them, and you shall dwell in the land in safety.
Right. If you follow his statutes and judgments, you shall then dwell in the land in safety. Now, is that going to be presented to us in somebody else's land? Go ahead.
And the land shall yield her fruit, and you shall eat your fill and dwell therein in safety.
Okay, there's another part that you have to take into consideration of this. Laban mistreated Yaakov, Israel, and was supposed to have him there 7 years to marry one daughter. He kept him 20 years and made him marry 2 daughters. The entire time he has the man, even under duress, he has grown in substance. So the people who have Israel as their captives end up becoming extremely rich. Even if they trick them, even if no matter how they get them, whoever has Israel has favor. Even if they have them by erroneous means. Read, bro.
You know, even with that, you got to look at the fact that he specifically targeted African Americans. Everybody wants our labor. Why you ain't open it up to the Mexicans?
Exactly. And here's another question. Those slave ships took us all across the globe. We didn't just come here. There's more of us in South America. Why he didn't welcome any of them? Now they specifically want you. Right. Everybody know who you are except you. And we all happy. Africa finally accepting us. I got that. Read, man.
Verse 20. And if you shall say, what shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow nor gather in our increase. Then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth fruit for 3 years.
All right, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 20. So you have to then look at those things together, that this country has gained its independence, but now just so happens to be in a debt crisis, and just so happen to need people to help this debt crisis. Now all of a sudden the American government is about to build a base right at the same place that has invited you. That's peculiar. That's peculiar. Right. Yeah. Something sounds strange about that, don't it? Right. See? Ezekiel chapter 20, and let's read verses 33 through 44.
As I live, said the Adonai Yah, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. And I'll bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein you are scattered.
Countries wherein you are scattered. Go ahead.
With a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out.
So 9 times out of 10, with fury poured out, it's not going to be a delightful situation. Okay? And we have to give Yahweh the opportunity to be an Elohim. And what does that mean? There are thought processes that I have had my entire life. Even after coming in the Word, the thought process was still there. And in one day and in one situation, Yahweh brings something else and totally gives me a different thought process concerning that thing. You have to give Yahweh that opportunity to do that. We could even have, we don't know how Yahweh is going to direct us, but at this point, there is not a stretched out arm and fury poured out. See, all of this may change when fury start pouring out. We may say, look, I go to Ghana, I go to anywhere, just get this off of me. See, but you got to give Yahweh the opportunity to turn that thought process. See, I remember people being offered jobs and they was like, no, I'm fine where I am. And then somebody come out and say, this is how Yahweh move you. Then your supervisor come and talk to you the nastiest they have ever talked to you in the whole time you have been there. What was that? Change your thought process. Excuse me, man, that job's still available. Yep. That's what was done to move you to accept the other job. You got to give Yahweh the opportunity to do that. You can't just do that on your own. What does it say? Children of Israel went down to Egypt and did not ask at my hand. At what point in this did we ask Yahweh anything? Folks is already packing up. It's folks in Ghana right now. They already, when y'all talk to Yahweh? Go ahead, brother.
No, just to add on to what you were saying, we consider that back in the time of Pharaoh, our ancestors were over there. Yahweh brought Pharaoh up so he can show his power until back then. So, I mean, that's going on to what you're saying right now. We have to wait for his power to be revealed.
Very, very good point, brother. Go ahead.
Verse 35. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face.
So then we have to get into that a little bit about Yahweh bringing us out to the into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face. So we have to consider how these things are going to be brought about, and none of us ultimately know the full answer of how he's going to do that. And anybody tell you that they fully know that, they are telling you the figment of their imagination. Go ahead. 36.
Like as I pled with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, said the Adonai Yah.
Right. So he's pleading with the children of Israel to get Israel to walk according to the laws, statutes, and judgments that he has given unto us. So we have to ask, how difficult is that going to be with other people present? And they have their own culture and they have their own ways. Yahweh is pleading with us to stop eating pork, and you sitting beside somebody who eating bush meat. That's worse than pork. Is that a roasted coyote? What is that? Pork don't sound so bad when you're talking about roasted coyote. No, but never mind. I just eat the pork chop. That right there is disgusting. Go ahead.
And I'll cause you to pass under the rod, and I'll bring you into the bond of the covenant.
I'm going to cause you to pass under the rod. You're going to obey my law. You're going to stick to the things of the covenant. See? This is what caused the divide between Yahweh and his wife Israel. See, those are the things that, when we have a divided house, everybody remember their part of what's happening to them. But they don't remember what they did to cause the other person to have that thought process. So Yahweh got to get our attention and show us what caused the lack of love between me and my wife Israel. What did you do? But we over here trying to figure out why we having all of these problems, why we going through all of these things. I'm going to bring you into the bond of the covenant. Remember all that stuff that you agreed to? Remember all that stuff that you say, yes, everything that you said, we will do. And then we lied. And once you start lying, you're going to automatically break up the relationship. Now we want all the good things that come from Yahweh, but we ain't doing none of the good things that we promised him. And want to know why? I pray to Yahweh, he not even answering me. He don't want to hear no more lie. He's tired of hearing your lie. Go ahead.
And I'll purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgressed against me. I'll bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel.
So then, by this, we already know that there is a stop. We know that we have to go somewhere, because ain't no way they letting us in Israel. Not coming out of here ain't gonna happen. So we got to go somewhere first. But Yahweh then says the rebels are going to be purged out in that spot. Then the remnant goes into Israel. Go ahead.
And you shall know that I am Yahweh. As for you, O house of Israel, thus said the Adonai, go you, serve you every one his idols, and hereafter also, if you will not hearken unto me, but pollute you my holy name no more with your gifts and with your idols. For in mine holy mountain, in the mountain of the height of Israel, said the Adonai, there shall all the house of Israel, all of them in the land, serve me. There will I accept them, and there will I require your offerings and the firstfruits of your oblations with all your holy things. I will accept you with your sweet savor when I bring you out from the people and gather you out of the countries wherein you have been scattered. And I'll be sanctified in you before the heathen. And you shall know that I am Yahweh, when I shall bring you into the land of Israel, into the country for the which I lifted up mine hand to give it to your fathers. And there shall you remember your ways and all your doings, wherein you have been defiled, and you shall loathe yourselves in your own sight for all your evils that you have committed. And you shall know that I am Yahweh, when I have wrought with you for my name's sake, not according to your wicked ways, nor according to your corrupt doings, O you house of Israel, said the Adonai.
All right. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 50. Jeremiah chapter 50, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 1. The word that Yahweh spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Declare you among the nations, and publish and set up a standard. Publish and conceal not. Say, Babylon is taken, Bel is confounded, Murdoch is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces.
And we have to understand that anytime we're reading prophecy, there's near prophecy and there's far prophecy. So a lot of things our people thought had already been fulfilled, but it was only the near part of that prophecy. The ultimate part of that prophecy had not been fulfilled. Even when it talked about of course, the biggest example was that the son of David was going to build a house and set up a kingdom that shall never fall. That was not talking about Solomon. Solomon did that immediately after David. But that's not the one that the prophecy was talking about. That was talking about Yahshua. And that came a long time after Solomon. Go ahead.
Verse 3. For out of the north there comes up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast.
All right, they shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast. It is a land coming out of the north, and we have to understand where Russia sits. And Russia and China have started their military joint operations. We're talking about some very heavy hitters. And look at all of the pre-war activities that have already started to take place. Russia has completely influenced America's election. Some say China pretty much already owns everything in America anyway. So you have a warlike thought process that has been going on for quite some time. So this is why there's a lot of people that were really behind Donald Trump when he started talking about all of this stuff in China. The normal person doesn't see that, so you don't see how much they own. You don't see how much influence they have in America. So some of the stuff he was saying sounds like it makes no sense. But the people who are in those positions know, no, these people are buying up pivotal businesses and getting their hands on things that they should not have. And then you just have to look at how many things that you own, pick it up and look on the bottom and see where it was made. Now, who's to say they can't put anything in there? We know that they can put computer chips and things to do all kinds of things. So all the stuff that we're looking for, it may already be in your house. I'm going to get rid of all this. That stuff already in there. Go ahead.
In those days and in that time, says Yahweh, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Yehudah together, going and weeping. They shall go and seek Yahweh their Elohim. They shall ask the way to Zion with their faces thitherward, saying, Come, and let us join ourselves to Yahweh in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place.
So the children of Israel are going to be asking the way to Zion. So you have to consider in certain times how Yahweh orchestrated war between us and other nations, because we were trying to get to a certain place. So we asked them, can we go through their land? When they said no, we ended up fighting and we ended up taking that land. Now, if you're starting in Ghana, do you know how far you got to go to get to Israel? You got to cross the continent. Go ahead.
All that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, We offend not, because they have sinned against Yahweh.
You know what I found interesting in a lot of those videos? It was like there was no mentioning as to, okay, so what happens after that? Yeah, you go back to Africa. At what point do you, as the children of Israel, end up in Israel? What is your plan after that? I found it very interesting. There was absolutely no speaking of that whatsoever. So it's awfully convenient for a lot of people. The people who need some money, they just so happen to get a whole lot of people to come and work. And here you got the ish. They're like, okay, perfect thing. 400 years, they go somewhere else. They leave us alone and ain't coming over here talking about being here. Nice little diversion, ain't it? Go ahead.
The habitation of justice, even Yahweh, the hope of their fathers. Remove out of the midst of Babylon, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be as the he-goats before the flocks. For, lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expertman. None shall return in vain.
Right. So Yahweh gonna make everything that they shoot hit. And if you know anything about a missile, look just like an arrow. Okay. It is shaped the exact same way, except it got explosives in it. Okay. So they're gonna shoot their arrows, and he gonna cause every last one of them to hit. And they got so many missiles that they just plan on a lot of them not hitting. They don't even think that all of them are going to hit something. So imagine their surprise when they shoot 50 and 50 actually hit something good. They're going to be trying to figure out, man, I can't believe we did that much damage. Right. Because it is Yahweh's will that it causes this much damage at this point in time. And we already know we have these situations. We got, this caldera, this underground volcano bomb sitting in the middle of the United States. And we have to wonder, if you hit a bomb with a bomb, what's going to happen? It may split the whole country in two. And everybody know it's there. Russia know it's there. China know it's there. Everybody in America, everybody know it's there. So it ain't no secret that you got an underground bomb sitting there that you cannot control. Go ahead.
And Chaldea shall be a spoil, and all that spoil her shall be satisfied, said Yahweh. Because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O you destroyers of mine heritage, because you are grown fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls, your mother shall be sore confounded.
Who is her mother?
Great
Europe. You got Europe, all that Great Britain, they all the same. See, they act like they different, but when they go to start doing their mess, you look up and they right there side by side. Go ahead.
She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Because of the anger of Yahweh it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Every one that goes by Babylon shall be astonished, and hiss at all her plagues. Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about. All you that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against Yahweh.
See, this is the thing. Yahweh allows some things to go on for a good little while, but then judgment then comes all at once. So within all of the evils that have happened, Yahweh is going to get judgment for it all at the same time. And it is going to seem just unfair to all of the people who have gotten accustomed to a certain mindset and a certain lifestyle. They are going to think this is the most unfair thing ever, because they've gotten accustomed to living a certain way, not understanding that judgment was going to have to come after that. Go ahead.
Jeremiah chapter 15, verse 15. Shout against her round about. She has given her hand. Her foundations are fallen. Her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of Yahweh. Take vengeance upon her, as she has done, do unto her. Cut off the sword from Babylon, and him that handles the sickle in the time of harvest. For fear of the oppressing sword, they shall return everyone to his people, and they shall flee everyone to his own land.
So then now, as we've read before, we've read these things about everybody fleeing to their own land, but now it is coming to the thing because of the oppressing sword. So remember what we read, I think it was Matthew 24, there shall be wars and rumors of wars. It's still not yet. So we got to have several different things on the level of wars, and then people start fleeing to their own land. Remember, all these people know where they come from. See, we look at people and we say, okay, well, that person is a Caucasian. That person knows exactly where their family from. That person family may be from France. This person family from Germany. This family's from England. So they know where they are ultimately from. The Chinese people got somewhere to go. The Spanish people got somewhere to go. The Ethiopians here, the Indians, everybody got somewhere to go except us. Because somebody's sitting in our land. Go ahead.
Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First the king of Assyria has devoured him, and last this Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, has broken his bones. Therefore thus said Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land, as I have punished the king of Assyria. And I'll bring Israel again to his habitation, and he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. In those days and in that time, says Yahweh, the lawlessness of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none. And the sins of Yehudah, and they shall not be found. For I will pardon them whom I reserve.
I will pardon them whom I reserve. So that whole thing, well, she did such and such. Well, look at him. He did such and such. Y'all, yeah. Well, I pardon him. You know, just like Donald Trump. They say he pardoned who he want to pardon. That's what you can do when you had a power. All power's in Yahweh's hand. Say, yeah. I know what she did, what he did, what they did. I pardon them. They belong to me. Y'all, come on. Go ahead.
Go up against the land of Merathaim, even against it, and against the inhabitants of Pekod. Waste and utterly destroy after them, says Yahweh, and do according to all that I have commanded you. A sound of battle is in the land, and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken?
And we have to consider that. The hammer of the whole earth. She in everybody's business. She's in everybody's land trying to dictate to them how they ought to deal with their issues. Now, part of that may not seem evil until you go back to Yahweh's word, the things that we mentioned in Bible study. The things that will cause people to get thrown in that lake of fire. You got lying, murdering, and then busybodies in other men's matters. Now, when you all off in somebody else's country talking about what they supposed to do, wait a minute, you're a busybody in somebody else's matter. What you doing here? See, we don't consider that as evil. Yahweh does. Go ahead.
How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? I have laid a snare for you, and you are also taken, O Babylon, and you was not aware. You are found, and also caught, because you have striven against Yahweh. Yahweh has opened his armory, and has brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Adonai Yah of hosts, in the land of the Chaldeans. Come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly.
Open her storehouses. There is said that America is storing the gold from multiple countries. Now, in some of those places have asked for their gold, and they don't really know if America even still has it. Go ahead.
Let nothing of her be left. Slay all her bullocks. Let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them! For their day is come, the time of their visitation. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of Yahweh our Elohim, the vengeance of his temple. Call together the archers against Babylon. All you that bend the bow, camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work. According to all that she has done, do unto her. For she has been proud against Yahweh, against the Holy One of Israel.
And she was proud against Yahweh by doing whatever she wanted to do to the church of Israel. See, nobody believes that they've done anything to Yahweh. But what they don't understand, when you do it to Yahweh's people, you did it to him. What did Yahshua say? You saw me hungry and you didn't feed me. When I saw you hungry and I ain't feed you, I ain't never done that, Yahshua. I love you. I ain't never do. I would never do that. I'll feed you right now. What are you talking about? No. You remember when you saw them people over there and you didn't feed them? Yeah. Well, those my people. Oh, my lamb. Right. Go ahead.
Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, says Yahweh. Behold, I am against you, O you most proud, said the Adonai Yahweh of hosts. For your day is come, the time that I will visit you. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him. Thus said the Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Yehudah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go.
Okay, a Jubilee is the 50th year. Consider how many Jubilees have passed while we were still in captivity. But we supposed to be celebrating your Jubilee. Jubilee's 50th year. How many 50 years we've been still sitting here? But we supposed to be celebrating your Jubilee. Right. Go ahead.
Their Redeemer is strong. Yahweh of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, says Yahweh, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. A sword is upon their horses, and upon their chariots, upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her.
Right. All of these different nations of people that have come to this big melting pot to make a living. All the mingled people in the midst of her are going to have issues. Go ahead.
And they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. For it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols.
Right. Every house is built in the image of a pyramid. We think that a house have to be built that way. Then we have 2 or 3 pyramid shapes in the front of the house. The churches are built in pyramids. The Washington Monument is a phallic symbol that they got out of Egypt. And every downtown city skyline is filled with phallic symbols and pyramids. Look at any major city skyline at night, and the one in that downtown Atlanta, it light up for you. It's a pyramid with a phallic symbol on top of it, and then the light blinks so you can look at the phallic symbol. Bing! It just flashed for you. And what is the purpose of that? Why do you have a pyramid and a phallic symbol on top of a skyscraper? Why is it there? What do you use it for? She is mad upon her idols. We've gone to subdivisions where they have phallic symbols in the beginning of the subdivision. You got to drive through this area with phallic symbols at the entrance. Why is it there? Go ahead.
Verse 39. Therefore the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein. And it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As Elohim overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, says Yahweh, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein.
Now, if you're talking about a situation of radiation, nobody can live in it. We know what happened during the accident of Chernobyl. They just had to build a wall around it and fence it in. Nobody could ever live in it. Now, the animals can live with radiation inside of them. It has turned into an animal wasteland. And that was a radiation accident. And they just had to build a wall around it and leave it alone. And we're talking decades later. They go back and measure it. It's off the charts. The radiation still there. You go back 100 years later, the radiation still there. You can't go in there. You go in there, you're going to die. They got buildings still up, all the stuff. It just fell down on its own. They just had to block the whole thing off. Remember when they have these little movies and they'll talk about the day after tomorrow or something like that, and they always talk about destruction or the end of the world. It's always America that they're showing, and you see the buildings still there. You see grass all over the skyscrapers. Go ahead, brother.
Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coast of the earth. They shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel, and will not show mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, every one put in array. Like a man to the battle against you, O daughter of Babylon.
O daughter of Babylon. Once again, it then separates Babylon from her daughter. See, the daughter is getting in the mother's way. See, Europe would be able to control a lot more things if her little unruly daughter would just move out the way. But she's not going to do that. So they're going to step out of the way and let her be punished so they can get all of the power that they're supposed to have. Go ahead.
The king of Babylon has heard the report of them, and his hands wax feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as a woman in travail. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan onto the habitation of the strong. But I'll make them suddenly run away from her. And who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her? For who is like me? And who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Therefore hear you the counsel of Yahweh, that he has taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he has purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them.
Right. It says the least of the flock shall draw them out. My elder used to say, that's Esau. See, Esau played both ends against the middle, creating all kind of havoc, paying and backing both sides of a war, funding both sides of a conflict, so that no matter what happens, they still come out on top. When you look at this whole thing of countries having money problems, remember what President Bush said when they were getting ready to do their stimulus package. They said, we can't do our stimulus package today because it's a Jewish holiday and none of our bankers are present. And he laughed. He just told everybody that the bankers control government policy. So then when you go and you look at a situation of a country having monetary problems, you have to ask yourself, which hands are involved in this monetary process? See, one of the things that we'll hear a lot about the Holocaust and the things that happened there, we will just hear the atrocities. We don't seem to hear much about the German side of things and how they believe that this certain group of people were trying to overthrow their government and take over their economy. That part, for some reason, doesn't get told. And it's very interesting when you consider it. Very interesting. When you had the leader of Israel come to speak to Congress without being invited, while being mad at the president of the United States. If that ain't bold, I don't know what is. I'm going to go to your country and imagine you come home and somebody standing in your living room talking to your family. Man, who the hell told you to come in here? I come home from work, this dude standing in my living room talking to my family. And everybody giving them a standing ovation after every 4 or 5 words. Right. Go ahead.
At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations.
At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved. It is said that the earth is going to reel to and fro like a drunkard. When you get the earth off its axis, a whole lot of things are going to start happening that are not normal. A whole lot of the normal processes that are supposed to be in the earth are going to be upset. If you talk about half of a country or even a state sliding off into the ocean, I mean, what happened when you put 2 ice cubes in a cup of water? Water get higher. Uh-oh. Well, what happened when you slide a couple million pounds of rock into it? It says the islands are going to flee away. So there's some things that are going to have to take place. Let's go to Hosea chapter 2. And we're going to start that at verse 1.
Say you unto your brethren, Am I, and to your sisters, Rahoma, plead with your mother, plead, for she's not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked, and set her as in the day that she was born, and make her as a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. And I will not have mercy upon her children, for they be the children of whoredoms. For their mother has played the harlot. She that conceived them has done shamefully. For she said, I'll go after my lovers, that give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, mine oil and my drink.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, behold, I will hedge up your way with thorns, and make a wall, that she shall not find her paths. And she shall follow after her lovers, but she shall not overtake them. And she shall seek them, but shall not find them. Then shall she say, I'll go and return to my first husband, for then was it better with me than now. For she did not know that I gave her corn and wine and oil, and multiplied her silver and gold, which they prepared for Baal.
Right. She didn't know that I gave her all of her substance, but then she took that and used it to serve other gods with it. So to Yahweh, this is spiritual adultery. Go ahead.
Therefore will I return, and take away my corn in the time thereof.
Now, and see, this is what people, they don't see us in this book. Yahweh, now see, there's a brother right here. Therefore, I'm going to return. I'm going to take away my corn and my wine. Now, that's a brother right there. Give me all that stuff out and give me all that back. What, you going to take it and spend it over here to serve and worship them? No, give me all my stuff back. That ain't going to work. Go ahead.
And mine wine in the season thereof, and will recover my wool and my flax given to cover her nakedness.
Right. To cover your nakedness, give me that back. Go ahead.
And now will I discover her lewdness in the sight of her lovers.
You won't be naked with them anyway. Go ahead. I take my stuff back. You ain't got no choice but to be naked. There you go. That's what you wanted, right? Go ahead.
And now I shall deliver her out of mine hand. I will also cause all her mirth to cease, her feast days, her new moons, and her Sabbaths, and all her solemn feasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll destroy her vines and her fig trees, whereof she had said, These are my rewards that my lovers have given me. And I will make them a forest, and the beasts of the field shall eat them. And I'll visit upon her the days of Baalim, wherein she burnt incense to them. And she decked herself with her earrings and her jewels, and she went after her lovers, and forgot me, says Yahweh.
Right. So this is what's caused this separation between Yahweh and his wife. See, this is one of those things, a lot of times when you start hearing, especially when you're counseling people, they will always tell you the part that's important to them. So they'll tell you about the issues that they have on one side, but they will never seem to mention the stuff that they did that caused the issue. We will sit here and talk about all of the stuff that Yahweh, oh my goodness, we got these curses, we got these such and such. We forget all that lying that we did. When we said we're going to follow all these covenants, we're going to do all of these things, and we ain't do none of it. Somehow we have selective amnesia when it comes to that. This is why Yahweh has to allure his wife to the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her to get her to remember the things that she originally agreed to. And only then does Yahweh get back close to Israel. And those are the things that we have to consider. Go ahead.
Verse 14. Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her. And I'll give her her vineyards from thence, and the valley of Achor for a door of hope.
Now, you start hearing about this valley of Achor in the Old and in the New when you start talking about the redemption of the children of Israel. And that's pretty interesting. Go ahead.
And she shall sing there, as in the days of her youth, and as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt.
Right. So now the old one, you talk about the valley of Achor. Then he says this valley of Achor again when he's talking about redeeming the children of Israel the second time. So now we have the same geographical location. Consider that. Go ahead.
And it shall be at that day, says Yahweh, that you shall call me Ishai.
Right. Spouse. See? You gonna call me husband. You ain't gonna call me Lord.
People say, oh, it don't matter. There's many names. There's many, many names. God, Counselor.
Those are titles. Go ahead.
And shall call me no more Baali.
Shall call me no more with this Lord thing. I'm getting sick of hearing Lord. Go ahead.
For I will take away the names of Baalim out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. And in that day will I make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground. And I'll break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth, and will make them to lie down safely. And I'll betroth you unto me forever.
Right. You engaged to me. Go ahead.
Yea, I will betroth you unto me in righteousness, and in judgment, and in loving kindness, and in mercies. I'll even betroth you unto me in faithfulness, and you shall know Yahweh. And it shall come to pass in that day, I will hear, says Yahweh, I will hear the heavens, and they shall hear the earth. And the earth shall hear the corn, and the wine, and the oil, and they shall hear Yezreel. And I'll sow her unto me in the earth, and I'll have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. And I'll say to them which were not my people, you are my people. And they shall say, you are my Elohim.
So then he rekindles the relationship once we lose that selective amnesia and remember the covenants that we once agreed to. Let's go to Revelation chapter 12. And you have to ask, where does the other nations fit in the grand scheme of all these things? Well, Yahweh is trying to allure his wife and speak comfortably unto her. And then we got somebody else talking. What you talking for? I'm trying to talk to my wife. Well, let me talk too. Shut up. There's some serious problems here. Here it is, Yahweh trying to speak comfortably unto his wife to rekindle their relationship, and everybody else, Wakanda, Hakuna Matata. Hey, hold on, bro. Shut up, man. I don't need you talking right now. All right? This is something I got to work out over here on my own. I don't need your help. See, there's something very interesting about that. Go ahead, bro.
Now you understand why he got to take us out to the wilderness away from everybody.
Right.
Get rid of the rebels so I can talk to y'all in privacy.
That's the whole point I'm trying to make. It said like he did it the first time. So how he gonna rekindle his when you trying to talk to your spouse, if y'all had some serious issues, y'all got to go alone by yourself. Come on over here and go sit in this corner. Come on, let's talk. We not finna talk in front of everybody. We finna go over here and have this conversation. Then you got everybody else chiming in.
Well, you know what? If I was you, you know what I'd do? You know what I'd do?
No, and I don't care. Go sit down. And what caused us the issue coming out of Egypt? The mixed multitude. So while he's trying to deal with his wife, here come the mixed multitude.
You know what? Oh, I miss those garlics and leeks that we had in Egypt. We should go back. Oh, there was such delicious meals.
Next thing you know, now we got a problem. Why? Listening to them. Right. Why y'all in here? Why y'all talking? Y'all need to be talking right now. And nobody sees the issue with that. How is he going to rekindle his relationship with his wife with everybody else talking? Read, man.
Revelations chapter 12 and verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head.
So you got the woman, which is Israel, and she being with child crying, travailing in birth, is Israel that brings forth the Messiah. And then you have Lucifer and the presence that he has set here on the earth, and its sole purpose is to devour the woman. You need to just rattle that around in your head for a minute. The purpose of the ruling entity that Satan has placed on the earth, their objective is to destroy the woman who brought forth the man-child. Okay? So when these entities then gain financial control of other places, and then you hear those places invite you, you need to also see Satan in it. Because if he's controlling them, it don't matter that that's the person that you're looking at. Who's controlling the person who asked you to come? See, that's the thing you got to look at. Because what happens is people use ambassadors to set people up. So you think that you're dealing with this loving, peaceful entity. You need to understand who sent them. Who in control of them? So if that person is controlling their money, because see, sometimes you'll find, especially, and I'm going to back up to something some of y'all might have encountered, because I know I did, especially when I first came out the world and came into the church. You know, when they would have those them devilish meetings, them holidays, and then when they realized, you know, that I wasn't coming, they start sending different ambassadors to come.
Your cousin P on the phone. Cousin P want to talk to you. He miss you so much. You should come to the Christmas gathering. Oh, there's so many family members over here. They miss you. They miss you. They miss you. Would you please talk to him?
Yeah. Hello? Go to hell. All right. So after I get a couple of them calls, you know what I'm saying? Different ambassadors start coming. You know what I'm saying? Now, after you run off enough of them ambassadors, you stop getting that phone call. But you got to run off enough of them ambassadors so that they stop calling you. See? And before you know it, they start telling the other ambassador,
I wouldn't call him if I was you. Why? Because they ain't going to tell you to do nothing but go to hell.
Go ahead, bro.
Verse 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to deliver, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
Want to kill the Mashiach. See, kill the seed, destroy the nation. See, this is the practice that the daughter of Babylon has played on us big time. This is why everything is done to monitor our reproduction. Lock as many of our men up, put all those abortion and birth control clinics, put as many of them as you possibly can in our neighborhood to prevent us from multiplying as a people. Tell us that all you need is two kids and a dog. You are living the dream. We come from families of 15, 19, 10. This is the kind of things that our people had before. Now we're told if you got 2 kids, you got everything. You got everything. You got a boy and a girl, you got everything they make. Look at that. Look at that. You got everything. They don't make nothing else more than that. You got a boy, you got a girl. There it is. That's all they make. You go and get out the game. They cancel. You straight. Who said that? Right. Go ahead.
And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up onto Elohim and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared of Elohim.
She has a place prepared of Elohim. Okay? Now, we don't ultimately know how he's going to prepare that place. I just caution Israel on moving too early. Let Yahweh push for when that time has come. See? Because you have to be very, very cautious for somebody who gets in debt and then all of a sudden they want you to come and join their house. I mean, I'm in debt too. Go ahead.
That they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
So then we have major things going on in the heavens as we're dealing with the redemption of the children of Israel. So this is a worldwide event that we're looking at here. This is just not some little thing that's happening. Go ahead.
And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our Elohim, and the power of his anointed one. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our Elohim day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death.
Right. So it was not a situation where our own personal things were more important than the direction that Yahweh was leading us. That's not the case here. See, there's going to have to be a change of focus. We think about Yahweh when we got everything else taken care of. He gonna change that. Go ahead.
Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great anger, because he knows that he has but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast onto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child.
Okay, now pause. If Lucifer's complete objective is to persecute the woman, if he is persecuting that woman and that woman is now residing in somebody else's land, how does that affect the people who are around that woman? I mean, consider, you invite somebody in your house, and the day they walk in there, the door break. Man, that's peculiar. Then they stay there another week, and then the sink break. Man, that's mighty peculiar. Then they take a shower, and the shower break. What the hell going on here? What the hell going on?
Thrust them out.
Then they go in the kitchen to eat, and your stove break. What the?
You know what? You know what, sweetie? You know what? I don't. You know what? I'm gonna have to repent of inviting you here. I'm gonna need you to get the hell on. This ain't working out. This ain't working out. Like I had 5 things break in 5 weeks. I'm just saying. Look here. I'm kumbaya some other time, but I'm gonna need you to leave right now.
Now, what happened if several million of us done already went somewhere, and then them people like, wait a minute, we done had nothing but hell since y'all got here. We ain't had no problem with Lucifer before y'all got here. Now Lucifer is tearing us up as soon as y'all got here. Y'all gotta go. Now here's the problem. Now you can't just go back.
Oh, excuse me, America. America, I'm sorry. You know what? I made a mistake. Can we get back on this ship?
That's gonna be a hard call to make. First of all, that's long distance. You know what I'm talking about? That's long distance. Yeah, that's gonna be a hell of a call. Go ahead, bro.
And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle.
Stop. Remember, Marcus Garvey had this thing set up, and all our people, we went to Liberia, right? They call Liberia the place that's under hell. So you can get to hell first, and then you get to Liberia. Now, this is just what some of the people who encountered some of the things in Liberia. And they got a movie about that where Nicolas Cage was doing, he was an arms dealer, and he was there, and he was talking about in the movie. This was the place that the people who wanted to leave America went because of the atrocities of slavery. And the place that they are in is absolutely worse than anything they ever could have dealt with in America. And that's right next to Sierra Leone, where China has bought all of this stuff, and they're predatory lending them money knowing that they can't pay it back, jacked up interest rate, and then take those things. And this is the region where the people are inviting you to. They're inviting you to something that they barely own. So there are situations where people were renting out houses, and there were several instances where those people had paid their rent. And then they looked up one day and they got evicted. And they're like, what are you talking about? Because the person who owned the house was accepting your rent, but they didn't pay their mortgage. So although you paid what you were supposed to pay, they didn't pay what they were supposed to pay. So you still got to get out. But what about my rent? You need to go find those people and see about your rent. Bad situation. Consider there's another party involved. Go ahead.
That she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent.
Hey, bro, see what this air on, man, and turn this thing up or something, man. This thing is either hell or Antarctica. There is no in between on this air, man. It's either freeze or burn. You know what I'm saying? What do you want to do? You know, I need a bomber jacket in here. Go ahead, bro.
And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood.
Right. So Hillel wants to then drown us. Go ahead.
And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was angry with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Elohim and have the testimony of Yahshua the Mashiach.
Right. So the ones who do what they're supposed to do, they are in the thickest part of the war with Hillel. He wants to fight the people who, first of all, are the descendants, but then even over that, the ones that do what they're supposed to do. He won't kill them first. So these are things that we have to consider. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Because there's another aspect that we have to also consider. Deuteronomy chapter 7, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
When Yahweh your Elohim shall bring you into the land whither you go to possess it, and have cast out many nations before you, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than you. And when Yahweh your Elohim shall deliver them before you, you shall smite them, and utterly destroy them. You shall make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them.
You shall make no covenants with them. Covenants are agreements. You are to make no covenants among these nations that you go to dispossess. Canaanites are Hamites, roughly the people that we call Africans. Now do understand that is a very loose term that was brought among them by other people. Even when you deal with that whole area of Ghana, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and Niger, is Nigeria and nigger. That's the name of them countries. Okay, those countries were given those names by other people. Those Latin words, nigger mean black, so it's nigger and Nigeria. That's where they stay, which used to be called black land. So understand what that is. Go ahead.
Neither shall you make marriages with them. Your daughter you shall not give unto his son, nor his daughter shall you take unto your son.
And when you get right down to it, how many of us even deal with so-called Africans to this day? There are Africans among us in this country. They don't deal with us. And now all of a sudden, 400 years later, we're supposed to move to where they at? They don't deal with us here. So what kind of issue, and you know how we are. We move in the area, we around somebody, we're going to start marrying those people. All we got to do is be in close proximity to them. And next thing you know, we marrying those people. Yahweh said no covenants. And this ain't got nothing to do with color, because them people same color we are. This ain't got nothing to do with color. Go ahead.
One thing about it is those people are so happy they're inviting us over. Gonna be in for a culture shock going over there trying to wear the clothes you wear over here. Them people ain't gonna put up with it.
Oh yeah, you gonna have about 1.2 days to wear them booty huggers. You get over there and think you finna show your train, you gonna figure out. Oh, they got something that'll stop that train. That's gonna take care of that business over there. You right about that, brother. There's definitely gonna be a culture shock thinking that you can go over there and these are the things that people don't consider. That you can go over there any old kind of way. Even the woman who was in front of the one of the men that was going through those things, and she bowed down to him, she was from here. But when you looked at her, she was dressed just like them. See, that's something that people looking at that they don't consider. Oh, that's cute. She dressed, in the cultural clothing. Then they gonna get over there. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I had to wear this every day? Oh, I didn't know. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What about my cat suit? I didn't. No, I know. I want to walk down the African streets and meow. I know. No, boo-boo, you're not gonna wear that here. That ain't gonna work. Go ahead.
For they will turn away your son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of Yahweh be kindled against you, and destroy you suddenly. But thus shall you deal with them. You shall destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire. For you are an holy people unto Yahweh your Elohim.
You are a holy people unto Yahweh your Elohim. Go ahead.
Yahweh your Elohim has chosen you to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
And this causes anger and jealousy among other people. Go ahead.
Yahweh did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people. But because Yahweh loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, has Yahweh brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Now know therefore, that Yahweh your Elohim, he is Elohim, the faithful Elohim, which keeps covenants and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations, and repayeth them that hate him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack to them that hates him, he will repay him to his face. You shall therefore keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which I command you this day to do them.
Right, but we got televangelists telling us that the commandments really ain't important. Yet he says here, to 1,000 generations. 1,000 generations. He's going to repay him that hates him to his face. But you got some old slick talker telling you commandments really ain't that important. Go ahead.
Wherefore it shall come to pass, if you hearken to these judgments, and keep and do them, that Yahweh your Elohim shall keep unto you the covenant and the mercy which he sware unto your fathers. And he will love you, and bless you, and multiply you. He will also bless the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your land, your corn, and your wine, and your oil, the increase of your kind, and the flocks of your sheep, in the land which he sware unto your fathers to give you. You shall be blessed above all people. There shall not be male or female barren among you, or among your cattle.
Right. Once we walk in the things that we're supposed to walk in, we're going to receive those blessings that Yahweh has promised us. But we're ready to receive the blessing without walking the way we're supposed to walk. See? We want all the things that he promised us without doing the things that we promised him. That ain't gonna work. Go ahead.
And Yahweh will take away from you all sickness, and will put none of the evil diseases of Egypt, which you knoweth, upon you, but will lay them upon all them that hate you. And you shall consume all the people which Yahweh your Elohim shall deliver you. Your eyes shall have no pity upon them, neither shall you serve their gods, for that will be a snare unto you. If you shall say in your heart, these nations are more than I, how can I dispossess them? You shall not be afraid of them, but shall well remember that Yahweh your Elohim did unto Pharaoh and unto all Egypt. The great temptations which your eyes saw, and the signs, and the wonders, and the mighty hand, and the stretched out arm, whereby Yahweh your Elohim brought you out, so shall Yahweh your Elohim do unto all people of whom you are afraid. Moreover, Yahweh your Elohim will send the hornet among them, until they that are left and hide themselves from you be destroyed. You shall not be affrighted at them, for Yahweh your Elohim is among you, a mighty Elohim and terrible. And Yahweh your Elohim will put out those nations before you by little and little. You may not consume them at once, lest the beasts of the field increase upon you. But Yahweh your Elohim shall deliver them unto you, and shall destroy them with a mighty destruction until they be destroyed. And he shall deliver their kings into your hand, and you shall destroy their name from under heaven. There shall no man be able to stand before you until you have destroyed them. The graven images of their gods shall you burn with fire. You shall not desire their silver or gold that is upon them, nor take it unto you, lest you be snared therein. For it is an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim.
Have we considered that? That if you find an idol because it's made of gold, you do away with the idol. Because see, there's some of us, do you see the gold that's on there? Look at that. Is that platinum? That's an idol. Throw that away.
What about if I just melt it down and make something else out of it?
Read, man.
Neither shall you bring an abomination into your house.
If you bring an abomination into your house, you have now brought the curse into your house. Go ahead.
Lest you be a cursed thing like it. But you shall utterly detest it, and you shall utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing.
Right. And abhor is to hate. Let's go to Joel chapter 3. Joel chapter 3.
Mm, 9:33.
And we're going to start that at verse 1.
For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Yehuda and Jerusalem.
And bring again means to cause the captivity to cease. When I shall bring again the captivity of Yehuda and Jerusalem, this is when I'm going to cause this captivity to cease. Go ahead.
I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and parted my land.
Right. And you have many nations that have participated either silently or financially in the parting of the children of Israel. And Yahweh is going to take care of that business, because there's a lot of people that seem, a lot of countries that seem like they were innocent of those things, that they haven't done anything. You know, they say, what's that place that they claim is always neutral? Switzerland?
Mm-hmm.
They hold all the money that everybody done stole. You ain't innocent. All the money of all the ill-gotten gain, what do you think he end up with? That's why everybody said, look, all right now, we're not going to mess with Switzerland because all us steal and we put our money there. So this is going to be fair ground. Nobody touches this place right here. This is an agreement among all the thieves and murderers, because that's where they hide their money. Go ahead.
And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink.
Now, if you go back and watch the president who said, that they're welcoming Israel, he actually said that we have sold, these people for wine and for trinkets and all of these things. So you have to look at the bits and pieces that they are pulling, but then watch where they make a left turn when it starts talking about the rest of it. Yeah, we've done all of these things. All right, well, let's see what it says is going to happen to you who have done those things. Read, my brother.
Yea, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine?
And understand, this is Canaan land. Canaan is a Hamite. Tyre and Zidon are Hamites, or what we would call Africans. Go ahead.
Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Yehuda and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians, that you might remove them far from their borders.
Now, openly he has admitted that he has done these things, that they have done these things. They have openly admitted that they sold us for trinkets. And if you remember the little mini-series, the Book of Negroes, they sold us for cognac. It could be why we like cognac to this day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, look, man, we were sold for this Cavassier. I need some of that. Put a little Coke in that, brother. Hey, what is how we got over here? I take pride in taking a little bit of Hennessy. You know what I'm talking about? A little bit of Kvassier. You know what I'm talking about? That's how we got here. How you gonna tell me now you don't need to drink that? Look here, bro. They sold us for this. Put a little ice and Coca-Cola in that, man. Let's wash this thing down. Go ahead.
Behold, I will raise them up out of the place where you have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head.
Now, see, he didn't mention this part. He stopped before that. Go ahead.
And I'll sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Yehuda.
Wait a minute. See, now we got, so you going somewhere and Yahweh done said he gonna sell those people's children in your hands since they sold you. Wait a minute. See, he didn't read this part. Now, how that's gonna come about? See, this sounds like it's gonna be a bad situation here. See, we got some atonement that has to be made for some things. Just saying you sorry after you done stole $100 million, that don't work. No. What's some of that money at, man? Let's talk about the returning of my goods. This whole thing, nobody has offered any reparation whatsoever. We'll give you the right to exist. Man, I exist now. Go ahead.
We're going to leave a place where we're dealing with people who are paranoid because of what they've done to us. And go back to a place where people are paranoid about what they've done to us.
Right. They call it cheating husband syndrome. When the dude done something, and then he accused the woman of everything.
What you looking at the mailman for? You don't look at the mailman. I swear for God you look at the mailman one more time.
What's wrong with him? He just left Keisha house. Right. She trying to get damn mail. Right. Read, man.
And they shall sell them to the Sabaeans, to people far off, for Yahweh hath spoken it. Proclaim you this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong.
So now you're talking about a time of war. There's some things that have to happen, but there are some really drastic things that are going to have to come about for this. Go ahead.
Assemble yourselves and come, all you heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause your mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. Let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put you in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining.
All right, jump to verse 19.
Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness, for the violence against the children of Yehuda, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. But Yehuda shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for Yahweh dwells in Zion.
Right. So let's go to Isaiah chapter 11. See, it's not enough to just take bits and pieces. And why did they believe that they can just take bits and pieces and tell us bits and pieces about a story and it would fly? Because they watch us on Sunday morning. They watch people do it to us all the time. Surely we can take these bits and pieces of stories and just regurgitate a little piece of it, and they will be so happy in La La Land, they won't even read the rest of the story to figure out that we lying. They watch it happen to us every Sunday morning. What people read about 3 verses and then stop right before the real truth is there. And see us hollering, running around the church, glory! So we surely can get them with this. Just mention a few things. They ain't gonna read. So they mention things that have absolutely nothing to do with each other. The Joseph Project and the prodigal son. Those two don't go together. There's certain things that when you know it, it jumps out. When somebody starts telling you, you know what, man, I'm going to really, really clean this bathroom, man. I'm going to get this Clorox and this ammonia And I'm going to put. Now, if anybody done clean before, they start saying, oh, hell, he about to pass out. It's going to be a dead knuckle in here. You can't mix them two. See, when they start talking, you be like, you know what, boo-boo, you ain't never cleaned before, hey. Come on, let's be honest. Let's be honest. You don't really clean, do you? Because you can't mix that Clorox and that ammonia, boo-boo. They going to pull you out of there. They going to pull you out of there. You going to pass out. Right. Them two things don't go together. Well, you have to do the same thing with this word. When folks start putting stuff together, that little thing should be going off in your ear. Ting, 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 ting. Wait a minute. Ting, ting. That stuff don't feel right. Yeah, they putting stuff together. That stuff don't go together. Sound good, but go back into it. Go ahead, brother. Isaiah chapter 11, and let's read verses 10 through 16.
And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Adonai shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush.
So we talking about Egypt, Ethiopia, all of these places the children of Israel are coming from. Okay? Go ahead.
And from Elam and from Shinar.
Babylon. Go ahead.
And from Hamath and from the islands of the sea.
So we're talking about a lot of different places that the children of Israel are then having to come from. These are all the places we have been scattered, as it is written, all over the globe. So we're not just coming from one general direction. Remember, it says they will come asking the way to Zion. Go ahead.
And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Yehudah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Yehudah, and Yehudah shall not vex Ephraim.
Right. Instead of being these two nations that go back and forth with one another, they will join together as one nation, as we were supposed to be in the beginning. Go ahead.
But they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them.
Now, consider then. Now, these are the people who call themselves Palestinians. So somehow we have to then be in that area. It says they're going to lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. Now, understand, those people are being oppressed by the Jewish. So what group of people might actually be more welcoming to an entire group of people to help them fight? That's peculiar. Read, bro.
And Yahweh shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the 7 streams, and make men go over dry shod. And there shall be an highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt.
All right, and let's go to our Zechariah chapter 2.
Uh, 966.
All right. So you have to consider how bad this group of people have been treated, not only by those people. Understand, that was also Britain and America who had their hands in placing these people in the land of Israel. Just like somebody's telling you to come in one place, look at who's behind all of it. You got the same entities that are controlling the money. Who gave the Israelis all this weaponry? Britain did. Isn't that the same people that Ghana just got their independence from? Oh, okay. Zechariah chapter 2, and let's start that at verse 1.
I lifted up mine eyes again, and looked, and behold a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then said I, Whither goeth you? And he said unto me, to measure Jerusalem, to see what is the breadth thereof, and what is the length thereof. And, behold, the angel that talked with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him, and said unto him, Run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls for the multitude of men and cattle therein. For I, saith Yahweh, will be unto her a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her.
Right. When you talk about a wall of fire round about, the people are not going to want to try to invade something. You know, it was easy for our people to follow Yahweh physically and to move with the Spirit when you see a pillar of fire and smoke move. It don't take a mental genius to figure out we need to move, the fire move. You see the big cloud? The cloud is moving. All right, start packing up. It's time to go and follow the Spirit. You can easily see which way the Spirit is moving. Well, that is not so in these days and times. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult to figure out how the Spirit is moving. Because you ain't just going to be able to just look up and see a pillar of fire just going down the street. Go ahead.
Ho, ho, come forth, and flee from the land of the north, said Yahweh. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heaven, says Yahweh. Deliver yourself, O Zion, that dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon.
Right. So then Yahweh at some point is going to push the need for our deliverance. Understand the situation that happened in Egypt. It was very tumultuous as they were receiving plague after plague after plague. It got to the point ultimately that they actually threw us out. Go, take your people and leave. Get out. Because they were facing too much judgment with us here. They said, no. They can't be here no more. First, he didn't want to let us go. Now he like, get out. Especially once they lost substance personally. Once they lost personally, it was time for us to go. Go ahead.
Verse 7, Deliver yourself, O Zion, that dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon.
Once again, now we get a distinction between Babylon and the daughter of Babylon. Go ahead.
For thus said the Yahweh of hosts, After the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. For he that touches you touches the apple of his eye.
Right, but the nations have forgotten that because Yahweh has paused for such a great deal of time. They have forgotten that Israel is the apple of Yahweh's eye. We have completely forgotten that. But he going to remind them. Go ahead.
For, behold, I will shake mine hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants, and you shall know that Yahweh of hosts has sent me. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for, lo, I come, and I will dwell in the midst of you, says Yahweh. And many nations shall be joined to Yahweh in that day, and shall be my people, and I'll dwell in the midst of you. And you shall know that Yahweh of hosts has sent me unto you. And Yahweh shall inherit Yehudah his portion in the Holy Land, and shall choose Jerusalem again. Be silent, O all flesh, before Yahweh, for he is raised up out of his holy habitation. And he showed me Yahshua the high priest standing before the angel of Yahweh, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. And Yahweh said unto Satan, Yahweh rebuke you, O Satan. Even Yahweh that has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? Now Yahshua was clothed with filthy garments, and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, Take away the filthy garments from him. And unto him he said, Behold, I have caused your lawlessness to pass from you, and I will clothe you with change of raiment. And I said, Let them set a fair mitre upon his head. So they set a fair mitre upon his head, and clothed him with garments. And the angel of Yahweh stood by. And the angel of Yahweh protested unto Yahshua, saying, Thus said Yahweh of hosts, If you will walk in my ways, and if you will keep my charge, then you shall also judge my house, and shall also keep my courts, and I will give you places to walk among these that stand by. Hear now, O Yahshua the high priest, you and your fellows that sit before you, for they are men wondered at. For behold, I will bring forth my servant the branch.
Mm-hmm.
For behold, the stone that I have laid before Yahshua, upon one stone shall be 7 eyes.
Right, the 7 spirits. Go ahead.
Behold, I will engrave the graving thereof, says Yahweh of hosts, and I will remove the lawlessness of that land in 1 day. In that day, says Yahweh of hosts, shall you call every man his neighbor under the vine and under the fig tree.
All right. So let us consider those things, and we have to remember to allow Yahweh to be the Elohim that He is. Let Yahweh push us to those things, and let us examine. Remember, it is written that if it were possible, they will even deceive the very elect, if it were possible. So understand, we're going to get a lot more interesting than that. So keep your eyes and ears open, Israel. Also, make sure that you guys get your Farmer's Almanac, because we will be going over the counting of the holy days, and Yah's will, we will start this Bible study this Wednesday at 7 p.m. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.